Charitable giving and donor behavior has changed significantly over the past 1 to 2 years, with some pretty big implications for nonprofit fundraising. So if you are starting a nonprofit or leading a nonprofit or fundraising for a nonprofit, it's really important for you to be on top of these charitable giving trends so that you can adjust your nonprofit fundraising strategy as needed in order to succeed. So in this video, I'm going to talk through 5 of those charitable giving trends from recent reports to help you think through your nonprofit fundraising strategy for the next couple of years. Welcome. If we haven't met yet, my name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director. I've been doing fundraising for many years and growing my organization from zero. So I have really tried to stay on top of these trends and pay attention to things that might impact my fundraising efforts and the fundraising efforts of other nonprofits that I care about. I hope that you find this video helpful. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content all about starting a nonprofit, fundraising, creating a social impact through social entrepreneurship and other types of projects, and just making a difference in the world. And as always, if you're looking for more support or want to learn more about me, check out my website, foundertofulltime.com. So charitable giving and how, when, and why donors might choose to give their money to a particular cause naturally evolves over time. But just like the COVID-19 pandemic has affected everything else, the pandemic has accelerated some of the charitable giving trends and caused some interesting changes in other donor behavior. So we're going to talk about that. So these 5 trends I'm going to talk about have really emerged and accelerated just over the past 1 or 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm going to talk for each of them about what that trend is and also its implications and its impacts on your fundraising. All right, let's jump in. Trend number 1 probably won't surprise you that much, but it is that a nonprofit's online presence is even more important than it was before. I mean, it's 2021, so having the basics like a website, a social media presence, etc. are must-haves for all organizations at this point in order to get discovered and for donors and supporters to engage with you. It's just, you just have to have it at this point. But because in 2020 and 2021, people started doing things more virtually and remotely, including looking up nonprofit information, this online presence for a nonprofit just increased in value. According to Fidelity Charitable's 2021 Future of Philanthropy report, 57% of people made their donations through the organization's website in the past couple of years. So I found myself not actually too surprised by that number, that 57% of people donating through a nonprofit's website. But the part that actually surprised me was the stat that came after that, which was that 18% of the donors that were surveyed as part of this report said that that was more often than they ever had before the pandemic. So people's behavior is increasingly moving online, and through nonprofits' website is where those donations are being made. A couple of other notable statistics from this research: 33% of donors used online resources to research a nonprofit before deciding to make a donation, and 19% of those surveyed also shared a nonprofit's posts on social media. So here are the implications for your nonprofit fundraising efforts. Number 1, hopefully pretty obviously, you need to make sure that your website is not just attractively designed, but also really easy to navigate, especially the pages that facilitate donations. You can frustrate a donor to the point where they will just not make a donation even if they had already landed on your donation page, if your donation page is too complicated to understand or use or does not function properly. The second thing you want to do to make sure that you are staying ahead of this trend is there are websites out there that review nonprofits like Charity Navigator or GuideStar that provide information about nonprofit organizations to the public. You want to make sure that your nonprofit's profiles on those websites are up to date and accurate and have the latest compelling, inspiring, and wonderful information about your cause possible, because people are looking up your organization on those sites. So you want to make sure it represents who you are and what you do in the best way possible. And the third part is also probably pretty obvious, but you want to make sure that you're keeping your social media pages up to date and posting to at least some degree of frequency. Make sure that your posts are engaging and interesting with decent quality photos and things that are personal. Tell a lot of stories and share your impacts and offer opportunities for people to comment and engage with your posts. All right, so trend number 2 is that the issues that donors care most about supporting are evolving. According to this same report, Fidelity's report on the future of philanthropy, the specific issue areas and global issues and community issues that donors are prioritizing to give their money to has shifted over the past couple of years. One interesting point that this report makes is that one of the issues that has consistently remained high in priorities for donors is this issue area of basic needs. That is housing, food, hunger, shelter, clothing, etc. So your basic needs as a human being. This has always been ranked highly and is pretty consistently so. And the report makes the point that many of the issues that donors face or are asked to support are very, very complicated. Basic needs is pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. So what we can possibly glean from that is that the easier to understand that your issue is the more likely your issue might get support. What's really interesting, and I'll show you the graph, the chart that they had in the report here in a second, was that they tracked the trends on how donors' priorities shifted over like 5 or 6 different key areas over the past couple of years. So the issues that donors said were less of a priority since the pandemic started, and those that became more of a priority to them. So let's take a look at that. According to their findings, between 2020 and 2021, donors dramatically shifted their interest in 5 major areas. That's they prioritized hunger, economic development, and racial discrimination. These became higher priorities for donors. And treatment of cures and diseases and clean water and sanitation actually decreased in prioritization by donors. All right, so what does this information mean for nonprofit fundraisers? Okay, so if your nonprofit is already working on one of the issues I mentioned that donors are increasingly prioritizing, then keep at it. Keep sharing your stories, showcasing the impacts of your organization, and also see if there are opportunities to invest in your organization's capacity and infrastructure so that you can grow and also become stronger as an organization if in the future donors deprioritize these issues. If your nonprofit is working on one of the issues that donors' prioritization has remained steady in or has even decreased, don't get discouraged. The issues that are more prevalent and frequently discussed in the media tend to be the ones that people gravitate towards supporting in a given year. So here's my advice to you if you're in this situation. Whenever possible, engage your public and talk to the media about how the issue that you are tackling as a nonprofit actually impacts one or more of those other issues that is getting more attention right now. We know that no social issue exists in a silo. Things are highly, highly interconnected. For example, if your nonprofit is tackling that issue of clean water and sanitation, one of the ones that donors deprioritized for support over the past couple of years, then talk about how that issue is also intertwined with and affected by and affects the issues that they prioritize, such as economic development and food insecurity. These things are all connected to each other. And another piece of advice that you'll probably hear me repeating several times because it's just so true and helpful, and that is to become really good storytellers of showcasing your impacts and the stories of the people's whose lives you're transforming as an organization in the work that you're doing. Trend number 3 surprised me a little bit, and that is that despite the digital age that we live in, word of mouth is still a really, really important marketing tool. While obviously a strong online presence and social media is really important, word of mouth or hearing about a cause from someone you know or a friend is still one of the biggest ways people find out about your organization and might choose to support it. According to Classy's Why America Gives 2021 report, 67% of donors are likely to find new causes to support based on the recommendations of friends and family. And this has always made some amount of sense to me. People trust other people with whom they have relationships. So even when you're thinking of, what plumber to use or what item to buy, you might trust the recommendation of a friend more than you might even trust your own research online. So social capital, people talking to each other and those relationships have a strong impact on who gets some support from donors. And so you really want to kind of be aware of that and see what you can do about it to encourage people to spread the word to their friends. So here is what you do. Here's the implication for nonprofit fundraising. You have to make sure that interactions with your organization and experiences that people have with your organization are positive. You're giving them a, so to speak, good customer service experience. People will remember how an interchange with your organization made them feel. And if it made them feel good, they're going to tell their friends about it. So what that means is, and I hope that you would do this anyway, but you want to just show extreme kindness to everyone you interact with. Make sure that they feel welcomed, included, safe, have a great experience, have fun if that's possible. And also you want to make sure that the messaging that you share with them is easy to remember. It's not too complicated, because even if someone really loves your organization and had a great experience with you, if they can't remember how to explain it to others, that's going to be a barrier that might prevent them from telling someone about you. All right, trend number 4. Donors are interested in tracking results, especially millennials. So according to Fidelity's report, donors are increasingly interested in seeing the specific measurable results and impacts of the causes that they support, and this is especially true of millennials. 66% of the people who identified as millennials in Fidelity's survey said that tracking results, going back and looking at the results and the shared and published stories and impacts of a nonprofit that they supported, is something that these donors did. And we know that this is increasing because 40% of Gen X and 32% of baby boomers said that they did this. So it seems to be something that the younger generations are interested in. We'll be interested to see, what Gen Z is all about and if they follow the same pattern. One comment the report made that I found really interesting, and I know rang true for me personally, was that donors, especially younger donors today, are viewing donations as investments in solving a problem that they see in the world. And I've always felt this way personally, and I feel like that's how donations should be viewed. I mean, nonprofits are charged with addressing a need and tackling a problem, and donations should help the organization be able to do that effectively. And so, yeah, I view donations as something that's like an investment, and the organization should be held accountable for its impacts. So what does this mean for nonprofit fundraising efforts? Well, hopefully as an organization, you're already tracking your results throughout the year. You've put systems and processes in place to understand how you are helping others and how many people or animals you are helping. So assuming you have all that in order, your next step is to make sure that people know about it. Make sure that you are showcasing those results up front on your website. You're talking about them on social media. You are making you're creating stories and content all about those impacts. So make those pieces of information easy to find. And bonus points if you can display that information in a visually appealing way, like an infographic or a cool video or some really high quality photography. The 5th trend is that donations are more often made through mobile devices. Classy says that of those donors who made online donations, over half, 58% of them, did so through their mobile device. This is pretty big and has some pretty practical implications for nonprofits and fundraising. It means that you have to make sure that your nonprofit's website, but especially the donation page, is mobile friendly. It's responsive and looks good on a smartphone. And if you're not sure if it is, all you have to do is pick up your phone and go to your organization's website and take a look at it. Is it attractive? Is it easy to use and navigate? Is it responsive? On the donation page are the fields where you would enter in the amount you want to donate and your name and your credit card information, all that. Are those easy to use fields? Are they popping up in the correct spaces? All of that good stuff. So if it is not, you know that you have some work to do on that area. Another thing you can do is lean into this trend and think of some creative ways that you could further engage donors through their mobile device. For example, maybe you want to experiment with requesting donations via text. So there are lots of great platforms out there that can help facilitate this, sometimes low cost or even free. So I'd love to hear what you think. Have you seen these trends in action? Have they been affecting your nonprofit and your fundraising efforts? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you have more ideas on how folks doing nonprofit fundraising could capitalize on these trends to have greater success. We'd love to hear your ideas too. Share them in the comments for the benefit of everyone watching. A couple of resources I've got for you. I mentioned my website, foundertofulltime.com before. Be sure to check that if you are looking for some training or some help. I also have a newsletter for nonprofit leaders and changemakers of all kinds that I send out around monthly. The link to subscribe to that is in the comments and the description in the video. So check that out. You can opt in and then opt out if you ever would like to do that. Finally, I have a Facebook group, Change the World or Bust. We have over 2,000 people in there now from all over the world, literally, who are working on their own social impact project, many of them starting a nonprofit, and we're just chatting in there and sharing tips and encouragement and all that. So come check that out. It's Change the World or Bust. That's all I have for today. I hope to see you next time and have a great week. Bye.